And we are live.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. Alright. How's everybody feeling?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Excellent.
Shit.
Let me just pull up.
All right.
Let me just pull up my Google Doc really quick that I have for the game.
I had half a bottle of wine playing my other game last night.
Holy shit!
Oh, bloody hell.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dice Dogs. With me, as always, is M, Ethan, Vinn, Finn, Sophie, and Anna.
Hi.
Hello.
So, how's everybody feeling? How's everybody doing?
Feeling good.
Ready for some orc stuff?
God, this lighting always. This lighting
Ready
always
to
makes
be
me look
used.
like a roasted potato.
Yep.
So.
I'm really struggling to pull up my character sheet for some reason. That would help.
Before we get started, is there anything that that anyone wants to say? Is there any housekeeping stuff that anybody wants to go over really quick? Any promotions you want to do?
Yeah, I have a question. Actually, I have a question for Connor.
Sure, what's up? Yeah.
When is Quinoa going to join us?
All right. If to give everybody a little context, yesterday on Hero Forge, I got the group together and we made custom made a character who turned out to be this little elephant shaman named Quinoa.
And he rips.
And yeah.
He's fucking badass.
Thanks.
I saw him. He was gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. I look forward to Quinoa being the final boss.
No, you can't do that.
Well, we'll redeem him at the end.
I hope so.
Joke's on you, the final boss.
Like the orc.
Joke's on you, the final boss is actually a boy. Okay. So, is everybody ready to get started?
Woo!
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. So, as you guys remember last game, you ended after a fight with the orc, which ended quite abruptly with the orc actually surrendering after both dealing and taking some heavy damage. But in that, he said something along the lines of, "Well, I think I can use you," and basically, I'm going to give you a basic rundown of what happened after that, because we're going to skip forward in time just a wee bit. Essentially, the orc introduced himself as... Where are my fucking notes?
Oh, the big reveal.
Hang on.
I'm excited.
Might not be that big a reveal because I can't find my fucking notes because I'm a bad DM.
Wait, my computer's fucking frozen!
No.
Found my notes. I'm a good DM.
Yay.
I'm a good DM. All right.
I can't click on anything. I'm stuck on my Investigator Pathfinder page.
Oh, for God's sake. This is a disaster. You're all disasters.
We're going in blind today.
All right. Do you want to wait until your computer's refreshed or whatever, or?
Fuck me. I don't... Just tell me the orc's name.
Okay, we'll keep going, and your computer will eventually reboot or something. So, all right. So the orc, after ending the fight with you guys, has introduced himself as Kharne the Flamehanded.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Wait, was it Kharne?
Kharne.
How do you spell this?
Kharne. And
I love a fucking KH. Hell yeah.
And he introduced himself as a former member of the Ice Tooth tribe that was native to the mountains, to the Cyrios Mountains of Pride, nearest the city of Pride's Call. And after the fight, it was revealed that he was actually not looking to harm anybody like in a substantial manner. He didn't actually want to kill you guys. He just wanted to drive you away. And he hasn't really explained much beyond that. He did, however, heal your wounds with the vast variety of healing spells that he has. So If you haven't already, go ahead and put yourselves back up to full health. Give yourself all your spell slots back,
Nice.
and all that.
I'm so happy.
I'm back, baby.
Meanwhile, Kolbavar is just like, yes, my one spell slot.
The singular spell slot.
Anyway, so after all this took place, Kharne has led you to his home in the forest at the base of the Cyrios Mountains, and his home is actually a very large kind of like hut that's built into a tree. He kind of had to like throw down a rope ladder for you guys to get up.
Cool.
But it's actually very nice for an orcish hut, and you've been there for you've only just recently arrived there within the past hour or so, and you find yourselves in kind of like the main living room, and the interior of the hut itself is it's very orcish. You know, there's bones and things kind of like sticking out of wood panels and all that kind of working together. And there's kind of like a network of tabards and flags sort of hanging up from the ceiling. But it's a very large kind of like tribal style hut. And in the very center, bolted to the floor, there's kind of like a tree trunk that serves as a table. And everybody in the current moment is kind of like sitting around it. And at this point, Kharne has excused himself for a moment, and he kind of dips away into another room through a fabric door. And as he comes back, you see in his massive hammer hand on the kind of hook part of the hammer, he's carrying what looks like a clay teapot. And slowly he goes around the room and just kind of like pours tea into each of your cups that's kind of put out before you. And each cup is kind of like a hammered metal cup. It's very do-it-yourself kind of style around here. And as he does this, he speaks in his low intoning voice. I would once again like to apologize for what took place.
With a pointed look at Fenkin, who almost died.
Fenkin doesn't really respond to that. He's just like giving him a very suspicious, very aware look, like, I don't trust her.
Not fully trusting. Yeah.
That's
probably fair.
It was a test of sorts, you see. I did not actually want to harm anyone to a extended degree, you understand. And as he says this, he kind of like puts the tea kettle in the center of the room and lifts his hammer hand up. And as he does, you can see there's kind of like a machined sort of like kind of interlock system near the base of his stump. And with like a quick turn, you hear a click and the hammer comes away, and he sets that on the table. And kind of lumbering away, he heads over to a wall, and hanging on the wall is kind of like a series of tools. There's like there's a hook, there's kind of like a shovel-looking thing, and he picks up the hook and he puts that on, clicks it into place, and then makes his way over to the table and sits down in one of the seats. Even sitting down, this orc is much taller than any of you.
Can I ask how large the table is, and if Ozla is actually able to even
I was
look up
literally thinking that.
on top of the table?
Yeah, Ozla.
Rambling.
He tried to find like a chair or a stool for you that was like substantially sized, but unfortunately for you, it kind of looks like.
Can she pile some books on and climb up on the books and sit on the books on the chair?
We'll say he did find some like pelts that he like folded in on themselves to make kind of like a cushion that propped you up a little more. Not a huge improvement. Your chin is still kind of under the table. Yes, Vinn, what's up?
I need to restart my computer.
That's okay. We shouldn't need your character sheet too soon here, so do what you need to do. Oh, you mean like the computer you're streaming on right now?
Yeah, I need to restart my whole thing.
Okay, not a problem. We will go ahead and wait for Vinn.
We'll pause for a sec.
We'll pause, yeah. Put everything on pause. D&D, high adventure.
Yeah. It's a lot of technical issues. Can I ask who is going to finish? Who's drinking their tea? Are we all drinking our tea? Are some of us not touching our tea?
I think Oz has tried to drink it and then she didn't like the taste, so she just
He enjoys bitter tea drinks.
Okay, so the tea itself, it's not like a high quality tea that you would get like at a tea house at Pride's Call or whatever, but it's kind of like an amalgamation of like the different herbs and pine needles kind of found around the forest. But honestly, given the ramshackle nature of the tea, it's not that bad. You know, it's a very passable tea, and it's actually got kind of like a minty flavor to it. Unfortunately, interesting. Unfortunately, though, Ozla, as you take a sip, there is a juniper berry that kind of gets like caught in your throat, so you kind of have to, and that goes back.
Fenkin dies.
While we're waiting for Vinn, does anybody have any like questions they want to ask me as the DM?
Do I have any questions? Oh, well, wait. Okay. No, never mind. Sorry. I thought I had a question about bardic inspiration, but I think I figured it out myself.
Okay.
But yeah, no problem. I do just want to say that whoever finishes their tea first and has an empty cup sitting in front of them, Nox is looking at that cup really intensely, and you can see the effort to not push it off the table is like tangible. It's such a strong, you could almost see it in her eyes as she looks at it. You could like see her like hands clutching the edge of the table. She's trying really hard, but no promises.
It's probably going to be Fenkin's, and he's going to look at the cup and then at her, the cup, her, and it's sort of like, what's your plan?
For the damage roll that you put down in the chat, the weapon dice, which one is that one? Is that the D6?
That depends on what the weapon is. For example, a longsword, the damage dice for that is 1d8. There's guides online that'll tell you what dice for what weapon. But if you just want to ask me, I've got my player's handbook right here that'll tell you. So like if you just shout out whatever weapon it is, and I'll look that up real quick for you, no problem.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So
yeah, I want to make the resources as available to you as possible because I know not everybody has like the books or anything. So honestly, any questions you have, throw them out. You know, that's what I'm here for.
There's also if you're not already using it if you're using the character sheet, kind of that standard D&D template, under your hit dice, under your hit points and your hit dice, you can kind of put the formula for how to calculate your damage with your different weapons right there in that spot.
I wonder what that was for.
Yeah, so on mine it says short bow, dagger, unarmed, and then I have like the die for all of those 3 different attacks that she can do.
Okay, so for example, my short sword says 1d6 plus 3 PR. What's the PR?
Piercing. That just means piercing damage. So
okay,
that's for me as a DM. Like if one of the monsters has like Hey, who's back?
I'm joining on my phone just so I can be here to talk to you guys while I try to get my laptop turned on.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem. Anyway, Anna, to answer your question about piercing damage, there's a couple different kinds of damage in Dungeons and Dragons that weapons can do. Like a warhammer does bludgeoning damage, a sword does slashing damage, yada yada yada, and that basically comes into play like if a creature has a resistance or a vulnerability to a certain kind of damage.
Gotcha.
Like oozes.
Yeah. So that just comes into play like, oh, I'm fighting this giant squishy thing that has resistance to piercing damage, so maybe my arrows aren't going to really do much work against this thing.
You don't want to slash and ooze.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, are we ready to pick up again? Are we good to go?
I can listen and take notes. I don't have push to talk on. I'm still trying to get my computer booted up, but once it is, I'll be back in on the visual.
That is totally fine. So again, now that you all kind of have your tea, there is kind of a moment. Anna, is that a puppy? I'm sorry to rail over again, but is that a puppy?
There's two puppies. There's two. This is Bella.
Oh,
And then she's under here. You can't see her, but that's Roxy.
Oh!
We are actual dice dogs!
Yay!
Yeah, they're hanging out with me.
Anyway,
Cute.
I'm so sorry. I saw a pair of paws, and my brain was just like, dog. Anyway. So, Kharne has gone around the room. He's poured everybody some tea, and he sits down, and it looks like if anyone was about to say anything, he kind of like holds up his good hand and closes his eyes and kind of bows his head. And you can kind of tell that, like, he's sort of praying. So there's kind of this, like, awkward pause of, like, should we also pray too? So you, not really knowing what to do, everybody just kind of, like, bows their head a little bit too. And a minute or so passes before Kharne looks back up, and he looks around the room and he says, "Now then, I don't suppose I could ask of you your names."
Stop silence.
I was just kind of like, what the fuck?
It cut out for me for a second. I was like, huh?
My name's Amaque.
I was just shoves her hand and she's like, "Hi guys, this is Vinn."
Introduce him for him.
Yeah.
Nox is still staring very hard at Fenkin's cup, and she just gives a quick Nox.
Okay.
Has Ethan? Oh no, there he is.
He's there. I see him.
Yeah.
Just the intimidating presence of a silent dragonborn and just dark hooded figure.
No, nothing.
So Kharne slowly nods his head and he says, "All right. Now then, I believe it is time to be getting down to business. I am sure that Pride's Call sent you to kill me. Is that correct?"
No.
Yep.
They did not specifically want us to kill you. They rather wanted you removed out of the way. If it could be done without your death, they preferred it that way.
And how do you remove a tree, my friend? You cut it down.
I'll say on fire.
There's no need for you to be cut down.
Well, I appreciate it when cooler heads prevail. Now, I am sure you are having your questions, and I am here to be answering them. But again, I want to reiterate, it was never my intention to kill, nor was it my intention to harm. But you must understand, there are reasons that I cannot let your people through the Cyrios mountain ranges.
But by doing so, you are harming people. There are those beyond those mountains who need food to survive. And because they cannot be allowed the food you are stopping from going through, they will starve. Is that your intention, to harm through inaction rather than your own actions?
I understand that, and I understand your supply lines a bit more than you think I might. However, I need you to understand something. As things are right now, if your people move through those mountain ranges, they will die.
Why?
But why do you care?
Because it will be my fault if they die.
Your fault? Can you elaborate?
There is kind of like a moment before he slowly stands up and makes his way over to there's kind of like a fireplace in the back, and he with his hook hand he makes his way over to a pile of logs, and he just sinks the hook into another log, and you see his biceps kind of like bulge and curl as he brings the log up over to the fire and
Sure, Vinn, right?
tosses it
Yeah.
in. And as
Vinn, are you listening?
As the dry
I'm here.
wood kind of like falls into the fire kind of like kicks up a little more, and then he turns around and he says, "Because I have a dear friend in those mountains, and if he is seeing your people moving into his territory, he will kill them, and that is why I need your help."
In the ensuing silence, there's the crash of Fenkin's cup hitting the ground.
God damn it!
As Knox makes the swipe, there is an audible little squeak coming from Fenkin's chair, where he stands up, the chair falls over, and he's like, ah!
So there's kind of not
this
all
poor orc must not be very impressed by this group of people.
So not all the
You
cups
need
are
all
metal. So not all the cups are metal, and the one you knocked over was unfortunately made of clay, and it shatters against the ground. And there's a moment of silence where kind of like the tension has broken, and he kind of like looks down at the cup, and he looks at you, and he says, "You know, those are very difficult to make when I have only one hand."
Knox just kind of looks back at him flatly and then says, "I will pay for a new one."
Knox, you have mending, don't you? Just fix
I
it.
do have mending, that's true. I do have mending as a cantrip.
Making his way
Making
back over to the table, he sits down and he said, "Oh, who'd we lose? We lost Finn. Oh, there's Finn." Okay.
Yeah.
Making his way back over to the table, he takes a seat once again, and kind of addressing all of you, he says, "No, I do not want to assume anything, but what do you know of my clan, the Ice Tooth clan?"
Very little.
Not a damn thing.
Then allow me to enlighten you. Once we were Skyriders. We were mighty tamers of the gracious and wild beasts known as hippogriffs. Great winged creatures they were, and through the skies we soared. And kind of like, there's kind of like a glazed over look in this old orc's eyes as he kind of remembers better times, and you can see like a hint of a proud smile on his face. I cannot describe to you what those days were like. To feel the sun against your skin, to feel the wind through your hair. We were the true kings of the mountains. And I had the greatest hippogriff of them all. Stormfang was his name, and I raised him from a hatchling. We grew side by side, best friends, brothers perhaps, if you could call it that. I have never known a mightier friend in my life, and I do not think I ever will. To be young again, to soar through the skies on his back. But then, things began to change. It was shortly after the ceasefire between your three kingdoms, I believe. It is said that when men grow old, their minds tend to go. It would seem that the same is true for hippogriffs. One day, Stormfang was not himself. He lashed out at everything that walked, everything that moved. Every sound would set him off. Soon I no longer saw the hippogriff that I knew as my brother. Soon I just saw violence, blood, madness. I thought I could tame him, but one day he escaped. And when I found the carcasses of a few of your Pride's Call soldiers in the mountains, I knew exactly what was going on. And so, until we deal with Stormfang, I am afraid that I cannot let any of your people through, because their blood will be on my hands. But I cannot kill him alone. That is why I've been waiting for somebody like you. Somebody who could easily best me in combat. Someone who could easily bring down Stormfang.
There's a very serious look on Fenkin's face as he can very much. He's very familiar with their close bond with animals, as he is a lot closer to many animals than he is to people. And he's immediately very inclined to accept this offer or this request. So he just solemnly nods his head.
And once we put down this pet of yours, you will allow Pride's Call's supplies to move through?
Once Stormfang's soul is returned to the Stormlord, then your people can go as they please.
Suppose there's no reason to wait around any longer, is there?
I will allow you one day to prepare if you are indeed taking the mission. And I will say this, I do not have much in the way of rewards, but I will be honor-bound to you. And I would be remiss if I did not tell you what sort of danger you are in. And slowly he kind of stands up, and on his back was kind of like this kind of like leather and hide cuirass. And you watch as he turns around and kind of like undoes the latches, and that falls away to reveal his green back, which again, just as muscly as his friend. But there's a massive, long valley of a scar that goes all the way down from his right shoulder down to his left side, and you've never seen a scar like this. It looks like he was almost split in twain at one point in his life. And slowly, as he lets you take a good look, he puts his cuirass back on and turns back around to take a seat. He gave that to me on the day that I lost him. I almost died that day, and I believe part of me did, knowing that I could not control him. But I do know now. What? Who's saying words?
Your request is to kill this beast, correct?
Aye.
There's no other way to go about this?
I have tried several different ways. I have called upon the Dawnfather's blessing, but it does not seem it is his way to heal Stormfang.
If he gave that to you, it seems that he is already dead, in a sense.
Aye. The Stormfang I knew is dead and gone. The creature that remains must be put down if your people are to be kept safe as they make it their way through the mountain passes.
Perhaps this is a form of mercy, then.
Perhaps. I have lived long, and I know that there is little mercy in this world. But if there is someone who can deliver that mercy, from what I've seen, it might be you. After all, not in all my years have I received such a thrashing. Especially from that one, and he kind of like points to Dhuur'in. I do not know what spells you sling, but they burn like a cold fire.
Yes.
He kind of like shrinks a little bit when he's got his eyes on this guy, kind of an up and down.
So once again, Kharne stands up and he kind of like puts his hand on the table and addresses everybody. With that in mind, can I trust you all to help me?
I don't know about the others, but I accept.
Two, accept.
Yeah.
Aye.
Very well. Do you have a chief among you, a leader of sorts?
Everybody looks at Nox.
She just like sighs. Sure, yes.
The one that I put in the cup just now is our leader.
Kharne kind of nods at you and says, Excellent. And he stands up and makes his way over to you. And with every kind of step, the floorboards kind of shudder a bit. And eventually he stands before you, Nox, and you hear... and he spits a huge gob of spit right into his hand and sticks it out to yours to shake.
Delicious.
She looks on him.
What?
She looks at him hesitantly for a moment and then spits into her own paw and shakes his hand.
Okay. So you shake. He's got a very strong grip, and his hand is like twice. And his hand is like twice the size of your little paw, so it kind of like disappears into his hand. With that, he kind of like steps away. I cannot describe to you the gratitude that I hold right now for you all. With that in mind, you have a day to prepare. You are welcome to anything in my pantry, and there are a few beds in the other rooms. Feel free to get as much rest as you need. I, for one, must go meditate. And with that, he turns and makes his way out the door he came.
Dhuur'in watches him go.
Nox kind of looks after him and then looks around the room and then looks back to the party and says, well, at the very least, this is better than the jail cell.
In a sense, we would be accomplishing what we came for.
In a roundabout way, yes.
Oz's just gonna like look into a cup and go, fucking hell though.
I admit I've never seen a hippogriff. I'm not sure I'm familiar with this creature.
They're giant.
Fenkin, can you go ahead and give me a nature check real quick?
Yes, sir. I got 17.
All right. Okay.
Oh.
So, in your travels through the wood and among the elven people, you know that a hippogriff, and reading directly from the monster manual right now because I don't want to improv this.
Oh yeah.
A beast whose magical origins are lost to history, a hippogriff possesses the wings and forelimbs of an eagle, the hindquarters of a horse, and a head that combines the features of both animals. Reclusive and omnivorous, hippogriffs mate for life and seldom venture more than a few miles from their nest. While defending its mate or its young, a hippogriff fights to the death. Hippogriffs don't lay eggs and give birth to live young. Dragons, griffins, and wyverns have a taste for hippogriff meat and frequently prey on these creatures. So, essentially what you know is that this is a sort of like flying mount creature, and you also know that it's a very vicious fighter.
Ooh.
So, after hearing Nox ask that question aloud or speak that she's unfamiliar with the animal, he kind of leans back a bit, crosses his arms, and sighs really heavily before saying, it is a fearsome beast indeed. I have never fought one myself, but I do know that they are fearsome fighters that don't stop until they drop dead. Seeing how they go up against dragons, creatures like dragons on the daily, I cannot say that we'll be in for an easy fight.
She kind of hums thoughtfully and looks around at the rest of them and says, well, then I suppose we should prepare.
I believe it will be a fight unlike any other we've had experienced before. Seeing how they're airborne, we need to be prepared for a long-range fight.
Interesting. I wonder if this creature must have some sort of den or place that it lives in, if it is living by itself. I don't know what our new friend intends when he wants to go after this creature, but perhaps a more stealthy approach will be beneficial.
So with that in mind, you guys have a couple options right now. Some of you, if you want, can kind of like go see what the room situation if you want. If somebody wants to go talk to Kharne a bit more while he's meditating, you can. Yeah, so basically, as it stands, you have like today and the rest of the night to rest. So what do you guys want to do?
I'm hitting up the pantry.
Get some food.
So
yeah, Knox is definitely just gonna poke around the room and see what she can see.
Poke around which room?
Probably starting with the room that they're in, the living room.
All right. So like I said before, the living room itself is kind of like this big area with the table, the fireplace, and kind of like everything else kind of strewn about. There's a lot of like what look like kind of ancestral weapons, like spears and harpoons, kind of resting against the wall. There's a giant great axe that kind of hangs over the fireplace, and also you can see what kind of looks like carved into the bark, sort of like a kind of story, kind of like you know those like big murals in art museums where it's one long piece that tells a story as it goes along. It's kind of like that, kind of carved into the wood. And the very beginning scene is what looks like a small child with tusks holding an egg close. And the next scene you see the same kind of child figure reaching up to pet the face of a very large bird-like creature with 4 limbs, and it goes on and on until there's a final scene of what appears to be Kharne with his hammer hand held high, soaring through the skies on top of this hippogriff, almost as if he's like bellowing out a challenge to the heavens themselves. But the mural stops there.
Oh, bugger.
Tell me what's in the pantry. I want to go rummage around and then go sit next to the orc.
Okay, so so first and foremost, the pantry is kind of like off in another room in the tree, and it's not so much a pantry as it is like a room for meat to be dried. As you make your way in, there's kind of like the carcasses of animals kind of splayed out and being prepared. There's an entire cow kind of hanging from the ceiling, very much dead. There's a couple of rabbits on kind of like a spit, but it looks like this guy mostly eats meat, and that makes sense considering how beefy he is.
I'm gonna gather myself some dried meat, and then I want to go sit next to him, just like right next to him, cross-legged with my meat. And now I want to try to make my Arcana check on his tattoos, just staring at him while he's sitting.
Okay, so you are eventually able to find like some kind of like salmon jerky that was kind of like drying out by a window nearest the wall, and taking that, you make your way into the living room again and through the door that he went through. And as soon as you enter this new dark room, the smell of incense hits your nose like very thickly. It's a very sweet, smoky kind of scent. This room is much darker than the other one. Where the other one was kind of like lit by torches, this one really only has a couple candles, and it's kind of like a 10 by 10 room. And in the very center of it sits Kharne before what appears to be a brass kind of like statue of a depiction of a sun, and around that brass depiction there's a series of candles and some lit incense. You can see the smoke kind of curling up, making alien shapes, and he's kind of like knelt before it with his head hung low and his eyes closed, and there's no visible reaction as you sit down next to him, but eventually he does speak. and it kind of catches you off guard for a second. And he says, "You know, my tribe did not exactly trust spellcasters, but I find their arts to be intriguing."
He just wanders in, sits down, kind of the brass statue in between them, and just makes himself very comfortable, staring at this man.
And you said you wanted to make an Arcana check on his tattoos, right?
Yes.
All right. Are you going to ask him about the tattoos first, or
You're just gonna do it.
Okay,
I'll try to figure it out on my own first. I'll make my roll and then I'll speak.
All right, go ahead and make your Arcana check. Yeah.
Well, it's only an 8, so
Okay,
he's staring at him. You can't quite figure them out, I'm assuming, and he'll go, "Great talk."
You know there's something vaguely like magical or supernatural about these tattoos, but like their exact origins you can't really pin down. And Kharne's eyes do eventually open. He seems like a little annoyed that you're like that you're like interrupting his prayers to the Dawn Lord, but eventually he does see you staring very intently at his tattoos, and he says, "Hey, I see you are looking at my war markings."
He kind of let his eyes shoot up a little bit because the tattoos are all along his chest, right?
Yes.
So he like shoots his eyes up to look at this guy's face, and he says, "What do they mean?"
Is that the first time that he spoke common?
That is absolutely the first time that he
Holy
spoke common.
Okay. So, Kharne, looking down at this tiny strip of a drow, he smiles, and he brings his fingers up to trace them. "These are markings that are earned by the Ice Tooth. Great warriors, chieftains, shamans, they all wear them. And they are deeply, deeply powerful. They say that the ink is mixed with the spirits of our ancestors. And I wear them as a badge of honor."
Kind of nods very knowingly, soaking in the information, and then his eyes trail back down to continue staring at him.
Not very subtle.
You are a very curious little elf.
He kind of like takes a bite of the jerky.
And Kharne, as he's been staring at you, he does kind of smile, but slowly that smile does begin to fade. And his eyes, they aren't angry, but they're very sad in a way. Even sadder than like when he was talking about Stormfang. And he takes a moment, and eventually he speaks up and he says, "I have seen much in my life. I have seen the deaths of my people, and I have held my children as they've died. I know darkness when I see it, and I know pain when I see it. And within you, I can just see so much sorrow, so much pain. You hide it well, aye. But the shadows can only hide things for so long until the dawn comes."
He gets very, very tense as this orc is just kind of reading him for all the things that nobody else can see. Pulls his book up a little bit as if it can protect him from these words. It looks like he's about to get up and leave.
"You are free to stay here and pray with me if you wish."
There's some silence And he says, "My prayer will burn your ears."
And he kind of looks at you blankly for another few moments before a smile appears. And he reaches out one giant hand to kind of like rest on your shoulder. And it's very gentle. This isn't like, him trying to be threatening or whatever. He says, I understand. We find solace in things that are beyond our comprehension, be they gods or something else. But do not ever forget that there are those in this world where you can find your solace in. That was one of the many teachings of my clan. And it's a teaching that I wish I had taken to heart before I lost them all.
Jesus.
Do not make the mistakes I made, little elf. And with that, he slowly stands up and kind of like fingers his amulet of Pelor and slowly takes it off and holds it out to you. And he says, I will not tell you who you can and cannot pray to. I will not tell you who you can and cannot find solace in. But just know that even when the night is coldest, the dawn is always waiting. And handing you the amulet, he turns around and makes his way out the door.
Damn.
Okay, so with that, Gesh, Amaque, not everybody else. What are you guys doing? While not like looking at.
Well, while all that's happening.
Amaque kind of just like has her hands on her two belts, like on her quiver and one on her where she has her daggers, and she's kind of just like perusing through this guy's place and kind of just keeping to herself, but kind of just like peeking through, just looking at things, keeping to herself, really.
Most of like the decorations and like the valuables here aren't really valuable in the sense of like, oh, this is a nice jewel or whatever. It's more valuable in the sense of like, this was clearly like an important thing to his tribe or whatever. Like there's a lot of like trophies taken from beasts that have been slain, that kind of thing. There's like horns and tusks and shit. You do eventually find like one kind of like thing that you could possibly sell if you wanted to steal it. That being kind of like what appears to be a skull that's been encased in brass, kind of sitting on one of the cupboards. But other than that, there's not really like much of anything else.
Yeah, so I think she's kind of just looking. She had the thought of possibly taking something, but after his sob story, she's like, "No, I can't do that." There's no way.
A thief with standards, we love it. So eventually, you guys do see Kharne come he comes lumbering out of the meditation room, and he kind of looks to you guys and he says, "Well, the evening is coming now. I suppose I should show you to the room." And he kind of like gestures for you guys to follow. And so, do you guys follow him?
Well, he left Dhuur'in in the meditation room, so he's going to be in there talking eldritch.
Fenkin follows gladly. He had a rough day. He would very much like to rest.
That's fair.
Okay, so as he leads the rest of the group to what appears to be some kind of some other room that's kind of set deeper into the tree, you kind of have to like go up another set of like rope ladders to get up to it. But this is clearly like some orcish simulacrum of a bedroom. There's kind of like a few sleeping nets and like bed rolls kind of laid out. And as he steps into the room, he kind of reaches into like kind of a cubby that's kind of hacked into the bark and pulls out some more furs and kind of starts like laying them out on the ground. And he kind of sweeps his hand down. He says, "You are free to take any space you like." I, however, get the bed. And he points at the wooden bed.
You know what? Fucking fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Fenkin will rush towards the most comfortable looking thing.
While you guys are figuring out your sleeping schedule, your DM needs to make a BM, so I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I will be right back.
Who needs to steal shit when you can just stare at this guy long enough until he gives you his gold amulet?
Yeah. True. You didn't even have to do anything, and he gave you a valuable.
No, he just saw my angst and was like,
all right.
You need this more than me.
This guy needs this.
He is going to come out wearing the amulet. He's going to have it on his neck.
Everyone's just going to look at him like, did you just get married? What happened?
Oh man, that's great.
If the ring comes in and just like stares at him on the bed, I'm gonna lose my shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's my girlfriend.
I mean, he doesn't sleep so good. Maybe he can get up there and like cuddle the big orc to sleep so he doesn't have any nightmares.
You can try.
Cuddle. Right, yeah.
Everyone has to plug their ears.
Hey, Gesh is welcome to join.
Fucking hell!
Could they possibly all fit?
Yes.
Did he say that there was like hanging? Like what are you
I don't
calling?
know. You have to ask him. The way I envisioned it was just a bunch of furs and pillows on the floor.
What are they called? Hangmats? Is that what they're called? What are they called?
Hammocks?
No, yeah, hammocks. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
By the way, even though Fenkin's like looks straight at the most comfiest one, I think Oz is gonna run past him to try and beat him to it.
Knock her off.
Just too soon, it's like, it's mine! I can't dance!
We're gonna do this for a while and keep everyone else awake.
I'll be like, meanwhile, Amaque's already laying in the most comfiest one as they're arguing about it.
Fenkin is gonna be so... He's gonna hold a vendetta towards her. Even more than he already does, but he doesn't dare, he's so afraid of her, he doesn't dare to fight with her, so he's just gonna and then walk away.
Oh, that's great.
I wish he would like take out a little sock or something for Ozla to sleep in. That would be the best thing.
It's like a joke or something, like, here's yours.
It's a giant orc sock that she like drowns in.
Perfect sleeping bag size.
Perfect.
Perfect for her.
Nox is just gonna go find like a windowsill. That's where she'll be.
Yeah, I hope there's no glass in there, and she just like.
In the middle of the night, you guys will absolutely hear some things being knocked over, like followed by a very quiet, like fuck.
Can it be like a meme in the future that Fenkin is always gonna hold on to like whatever he's using to drink from her? No,
You better.
He's never gonna let it go, and he's always gonna keep an eye on her. Like, don't you dare!
Don't put anything small and pushable on the table. It's as simple as that.
You're gonna hear like a clatter and then Fenkin going, "Hey!"
Like, well, you should have learned. You should have learned your lesson.
Oh my god. Okay, I just destroyed that toilet. Like I don't know if the Geneva Convention applies to whatever I just did in that bathroom, but I should be in jail.
It does, and you're under arrest.
Okay, but is it not working anymore?
What?
Is the
Is
toilet
it not
not
working
working?
anymore?
Yeah, does it still function?
If it still works, then you know you've not beaten my record. So
I mean, it's still.
Oh
Oh
god.
my god.
He's so nice.
You said it so proudly too.
Imagine if it was in character.
Out, so I didn't have to deal with the consequences. But yeah.
So
It was a
while I
goodbye
was
present.
while I was off committing my war crime to the toilet, what did we come up with while I was gone?
Dhuur'in is gonna wear the amulet.
Did you think are there only like rolls on the floor, or are there like hammocks or something, or what was?
Yeah, I'll say there's kind of like some buckskin hammocks that are that's kind of as another option.
All right, Fenkin is gonna go straight for one of those because he likes living in cold places.
Is everyone else picking just
try
like
and
a
push him out the
fur?
way.
Is everyone else picking like a fur or a bedroll?
Arthur and are bickering about their
about where they're gonna go. Nox is going on.
Sleep in a
His bedroll,
meditating room.
sleep, just ignore everyone else.
Okay, so
Wait,
Wait, is the fireplace still on?
what's that?
Was the fire still? Is there still a fire going at this point?
It's died down by now.
Okay. Well, Nox is still gonna lay in front of it, and that's where she's gonna sleep.
Okay, so Nox is in the fireplace. Everyone, Dhuur'in, are you still in
She's
the
in
meditation
the
chamber?
fireplace.
Yeah, he's probably gonna sleep in the meditation chamber because it's
Okay.
quiet and dark.
And everybody else is sleeping with Kharne. Yes. Well, not okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Correct. Yes. Correct.
So okay. Ozla.
Actually, wait. Before we start, I've got some food that's just arrived, so I need to go.
Go right ahead. Go grab it.
Sorry.
Go get your
grab it.
food.
So,
In the meantime, I'll send Fenkin can bicker.
so Ozla. Ozla. As the night begins to wear on and everybody's asleep, you might be having a little trouble sleeping, tossing and turning. Probably because like the giant orc next to you is like snoring like a chainsaw. But eventually, at some point, you feel a huge hand suddenly reach down and grab you and yank you up into the bed. And
Jesus.
two massive arms kind of like curl around you like a teddy bear. And as you look up kind of startled, you see that Kharne is still very much like asleep. So this is something that he's done like in his sleep, and you're just kind of like trapped.
He's just like.
You can make a strength check if you want to try to escape.
Okay, strength check, D20.
Strength check to escape.
Natural 20.
God, you suplex him off of the bed.
Okay, so
He just goes, what the fuck?
it takes like a good 5 minutes of struggling before you're able to like get your little arms under his and just really push up just enough to like slide out, and eventually you just kind of like tumble back down to your bedroll and you're just like, oh, jeez. And then the hand comes down again and grabs you back up.
No! Another strength check. 12 plus 4, 16.
Nope. You're stuck
No!
tight. You're stuck tight this time.
Again!
Okay, wait. What's just happened?
Now a teddy bear.
While you were gone, Kharne in his slumber grabbed the nearest thing to like cuddle, and the nearest thing was Ozla.
Dhuur'in wishes it was me right now.
And he's busy having a nightmare in the meditation chamber.
Oh,
Yeah, actually, speaking of Dhuur'in, as you sleep in the meditation chamber, for once, your dreams are a little quiet. There's no discordant flutes. There's no evil whispering. For once, it seems a little quiet, warm, nice. The dreamscape you wake up to is still utter blackness, but it doesn't seem too terrible. Until you hear a voice from behind you. You feel something cold and sharp raking down your back. You feel something metal clanking around your neck. you hear the tightening of a screw. And slowly, a feminine voice whispers right into your ear. Dhuur'in,
Ooh.
I told you, there's no escaping me, Dhuur'in. I told you that no matter how far you run, there's no getting away. I'm going to find you, my little rabbit. And when I do, oh, the fun we are going to have.
Dislike.
Horrible.
Unsubscribe.
Can't even scream.
This is why we can't have nice things.
And with that last word, you feel a pair of like long, bony hands kind of coming down onto your chest from behind. And finally, in a much louder voice, and I want my book back. All right.
Horrible.
Nox. Nothing really
Yes.
Nothing really happens to you. You're by the
Great.
fireplace. It's a fucking fantastic time.
Yeah, it's great. She's like on her back, like stretched out, and like just kind of somewhat curved in a way that doesn't seem natural or comfortable, but clearly she's fine.
Okay.
She's just enjoying it.
Just a second. Oh, god damn it.
I don't like that you're rolling right now.
Damn it.
I
All
don't
right.
like
So
that you're rolling right now.
shit. Okay. So Nox,
Yes.
in the middle of the night,
Uh-oh.
you hear something of a scrabbling, and as you open your eyes, you kind of see on the table in the center of the room, kind of like a dark black blob. It's hard to see in the dark, but as your eyes adjust, you see a very fat raccoon, kind of like dipping its face into one of the cups. And as you look at it, its face comes out of the cup, and it's got like a juniper berry in its mouth, and it kind of like nods at you, and then scampers away.
You bitch.
Gross. Truly foul.
He came back for more.
We're being followed by a raccoon. That's
Also,
wonderful.
Can you make me a perception check real quick?
Me?
Yes, you.
Yes. I can make you a perception check. What's my perception? Okay. Do 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 do. Perception. Do 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 do. 21.
21. Okay, yeah. So,
I'm perceiving a lot this night.
So as the raccoon scampers away, you hear another scrabbling, but this time it seems to be coming from Kharne's meditation room. You hear, it almost sounds like somebody kind of like rolling around on the floor. You hear kind of like whimpering and whispering.
Is that all? That's all she hears?
That's all she hears.
All right. She's going to. She gets up after a couple seconds of kind of laying there listening, mostly trying to discern if there are multiple people in the room, aka Dhuur'in is being kidnapped. And then when she realizes that that's not the case, yeah, she's like, okay, it's just him. She will go up to the table of tea and grab a juniper berry, and then she's going to go kind of quietly, light-footedly, trying not to disturb anybody else in the room. She's going to make her way over to the meditation room and kind of peek open the door and peer inside.
All right. So what you see, before I continue, does anybody need to be done at a certain time today? Can anybody not play to a certain time? Just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to check.
I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Anyway, you peer into the room, and what you see is Dhuur'in on the floor, and You've only slept a few nights with this group to know that Dhuur'in does do a lot of tossing and turning in his sleep, but this time it seems much worse. It seems genuinely bad, and as you look a bit closer, you can even see tears welling down his face.
She throws the juniper berry at his face.
Tough love.
Okay. I don't even know what roll to make for this. Hey, Dhuur'in, can you go ahead and make me... What's your passive perception, Dhuur'in?
12.
Okay, yeah, so... You feel something small and hard kind of like thunk against your forehead, and you snap awake.
He snaps awake, but instead of screaming or shouting angrily, he's just like, and like visibly crying. His hood has fallen back to expose his terribly cut, cropped, white gray hair.
Aww.
He's so distressed and scared and upset, and he just kind of looks up at Nox and just stares at her.
Nox is just like kind of crouching in the doorway like a fucking gremlin, like arms still outstretched, because she clearly just threw this object. There's a little juniper berry, I assume, on the ground next to him, and she just like looks at him for a second, and then she's like, "Do you need a hug?"
He's trembling.
She waits for a couple of seconds. Yes? No? No. This is a no?
He doesn't really say anything, but he just kind of holds out his hand, shaking visibly.
Contact!
So... I'm very tempted to just have her go pick up the juniper berry and put it in his hand. Just like, here, have this.
Always crying.
She looks at him for a second and then again kind of like gives a quiet sigh, not a very dramatic sigh, just like a very muted, like the kind of sigh that you make when you're like getting yourself ready to deal with some kind of situation. So she has this kind of moment of like grounding herself, and then she comes in. She doesn't really say anything. She'll just kind of come and like sit next to him pretty close, like almost touching, but like not exactly. And then she will casually kind of reach into her pack that she has with her and pull out her water skin and offer it to him. It does have water in it. True clarity. It's not empty.
Yeah. He'll take it in his trembling hands and like swig and hand it back.
So Nox, for the first time probably ever, you're seeing Dhuur'in's face, his true face. So do you want to explain what he looks like, Vinn?
Oh, yeah.
His skin is obsidian black. He's got a very narrow, sharp face with the high cheekbones, sharp features, the long pointed ears, because he is a drow, and his eyes, on their own, without any sort of magic that he may be conjuring, are just glowing in these like streaks upward that follow him where he moves in like a lag. He's a handsome young man, and he just looks terrified, as if his face is set that way permanently.
Oh, Nox kind of looks at him for a couple of seconds. It's very clear that she, is realizing that this is the first time that she's seen his face, and so she's kind of obviously taking a moment to like look at him, and she looks a little bit surprised either to be seeing his face at all or maybe surprised by what he looks like. And then after a couple of seconds, she takes her water skin back and puts it back, and then she kind of looks at him and nods and says, Your ears are bigger than I thought they would be.
He doesn't really acknowledge it much, besides like.
She's like, they're fine. Nothing is wrong with them. She'll probably drink from her water skin too, and then she'll just kind of chill there. Not really like look at him or ask him anything about what happened. Just kind of sharing company.
Oh, he wasn't going to tell her anyway.
Yeah.
But he's kind of grateful that somebody would take the time to sit with him after this traumatic nightmare he just had.
Oh.
He'll pull his knees up and kind of curl and make himself as small as he can make himself underneath his robes, but he won't pull his hood back up. He'll just sit there and enjoy having company for once.
Okay. So the night draws on, with you two sitting together in silence in the meditation chamber, and eventually you two do fall asleep. Maybe Dhuur'in first, now that he has somebody to watch over him. And slowly but surely, the evening turns into the dawn. And can I just give that a round of applause? That was good shit. That was fucking good shit.
Character building.
In fact, you know what? Nox, I want you to take an inspiration for that.
I don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
So what that means is basically when you have inspiration, it means that on while you have it, if you make like a roll and it's not as good, you can go ahead and re-roll it. But you only have one use of that right now. So
does that include any roll, like damage rolls, ability, anything?
It's I think it only covers like checks and attack rolls, but yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Cool.
And saving throws, but yeah. So there should be a little box on your character sheet that says inspiration. So if you just want to go ahead and check that really quick, that'll be
yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, inspiration is kind of like a little reward system that 5e put in that I really like. That rewards like really good role playing, like that shit. That was fucking great. I'm gonna rewatch this episode so many times it's not even funny. I am going to beat all of the views. Aha. Okay, so wow, sorry, I had to take a second because that wow. I don't know how to say
making
this,
friends.
As a DM, like DMs dream of having players like you guys. Like this is amazing, honestly.
Connor, you can't do this. This is gay.
This is gay.
Everyone's gonna see. Thank you. That's really sweet to say.
Thanks for giving me a really good nightmare.
Yay!
Okay, so as the morning slowly comes, everybody sort of wakes up. Kharne maybe kind of wakes up first, realizes he has Ozla in his arms, and just kind of slowly puts her down.
Puts her back.
But eventually, when you guys do wake up, you do find a very large breakfast prepared downstairs. There's cuts of meat that's kind of been roasted over the fire. There's kind of like a hard roll kind of style biscuit. That's kind of. Have you guys ever had like sourdough, like crunchy sourdough?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And,
ooh,
it's
good
like
shit.
And there's even a jar of honey kind of put out. But he taps that. Kharne taps that with his hook hand, and he says, "Only a spoonful of this each. Trust me when I say that."
It's good that he got ahead of that, because yeah.
Did we lose Sophie? Oh, we lost Sophie.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll wait for Sophie because there we go. What? Where? Ah! Oh Jesus! Oh Christ!
The Brits. Did something happen in Britain? Is the Queen okay?
Hi.
Hi.
We lost both of our British people at the same time.
I know. Someone check on the Queen.
Is that what Brexit is?
I wish I'd fucking screenshot that because you were literally like, So funny.
But as you all kind of sit down to what is a pretty good breakfast for kind of an orcish hermit living out in the woods. You sit down. You got all your spell slots back. You got all your health back and all that shit. So go ahead and take the time to make those character adjustments if you as you need. But as you breakfast does eventually come to a close, and Kharne stands up and he kind of addresses everybody again before making his way over to the fireplace. And you see the great axe kind of like hanging up there. And he slowly reaches up with his good hand and grasps the handle of it and brings it down. And kind of like tucking the ferrule of it under his arm, he brings his hand up to like the axe head, and you hear a twist and a click as the axe head comes off, and he drops the ferrule of the axe, brings up his stumped hand, and clicks the axe into place.
That rules.
And he kind of gives it a flex, gives it a few good swings, and he speaks an orcish word, and it lights up in fire. And he finally turns to you and he says, "All right, let us go hunting."
Oh, God.
So Dhuur'in left his hood down for breakfast, which will be the first time everybody else has also seen his face.
Aww.
But this also makes him ogling this orc like 30,000 times more obvious. Like unabashedly just like...
Oh my god. Yeah. I imagine they're all just like looking.
Yeah, Fenkin is staring at him, but like trying not to make it too obvious. He's like,
All right.
He's not a bad-looking drow. He was a good slave. For like 86 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that depressing note,
you gave me the dream.
Kharne gives you guys the time to like gather up all of your belongings and everything, and eventually he does lead you out of the tree house. He throws down like the wooden ladder for you, and as everybody kind of like makes their way down, you watch as he pulls the ladder up, and you think that's weird. How's he gonna get down? But then he just jumps off the ledge and he comes slamming down to the ground in kind of like a superhero landing. Like the axe kind of like slams into the ground. And he slowly stands up and kind of like lifts it and props it over his shoulder. And he kind of nods at you. And wordlessly he starts to lead the way away from the forest and back into the path.
Just complete awe.
Yeah.
Like,
Fenkin looks at Nox like, there we go.
And then goes the hood.
Immediately.
Yep. Hood back up. Yep, she will. Nox is she's ready to go. She spent the morning, probably like, I imagine there might have been a point where, unless Dhuur'in like got up early, they might have just like come out of that room together, which probably looked very odd to everybody. Like, where the fuck did she get in there, and why are they both in there? But she didn't say anything. She just kind of went, sat, ate, got her stuff together, gave herself a little kitty bath, and she's looking like awake and ready, and hurries after him. She's ready to go.
It seems like Valios isn't the only one with a cat complex. Anyway.
How dare you?
So, as you guys are kind of like walking into the mountain ranges, into the mountain pass with Kharne in front, what's kind of like the order here? Who's walking straight behind him? Who's bringing up the rear?
Fenkin is in front, right behind him.
Dhuur'in will be up there as well.
Yeah, Nox is probably up there too.
All right.
They might just be walking in a line, like a horizontal, just like a wall of shit coming your way.
Amaque, what you got?
I'd say Oz is probably behind them then, in that case. Just trundling along like, guys!
Amaque's gonna be at the back.
Amaque's at the back.
Yeah!
Okay. And Gesh, where are you? Are you in the back with Amaque? What?
Nope, sorry, you cut out.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm in the
Cool.
back.
So,
Making my way downtown.
so as you guys are walking into the clearing that kind of like marks the end of like the Zemni fields and the beginning of the Cyrios mountain ranges, you step up into a snowy field and you start to make your way upwards onto an incline. And at first, there's not too much snow, but then as you go for another hour, there's quite a bit of snow. And Fenkin, as you look back at Ozla, you do see her kind of like holding her hammer above her head and just kind of like wading through the snow, which is like chest deep for her.
It's like Gimli going through the mountains.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
That's what she looks like.
He'll slow down and then pause.
You know what, Anna? For a Lord of the Rings reference, I want you to take an inspiration too.
Fenkin will stop and he will look at her and he will wait for her, and then when she's finally like where he is, he'll kind of, do you want a ride or something?
She doesn't want to look at it, but she's just like holding it. She goes, "Yes, please."
He just like picks her up, sets her on his shoulders, and then keeps walking. He's struggling a little bit because of the sheer weight of that axe.
He's so fucking chunky, man.
Fenkin can only move half speed.
He starts like slacking off to the others.
So as you guys are walking along, Kharne, Gesh, Kharne kind of like not really like turning around to face you because he's like, up in front, but he does kind of like turn his head around back and he says, "Aye, big man, that was impressive what you did yesterday with the lightning. Are you one of the Dragonkin?"
Dragon.
Even.
Sorry, you cut out like so much that my connection is terrible,
Oh, not a problem,
and it's getting really bad.
Not a problem. He looked back at you and he said,
Could you
say
that again?
Yeah, he looked back at you and said, "What you did with the lightning yesterday, that was very impressive. Are you one of the Dragonkin?" And Dragonkin is just like another word for Dragonborn.
See?
What?
I said, "Are you one of the?" Oh, never mind. And Nox, he'll kind of like he'll kind of turn his attention to you and he says, "He's kind of a quiet one, isn't he?"
What, the big one?
Aye, the big one.
Yes, there are some strange characters in this group. He is probably the one I know the least about.
I see. Strange characters indeed. And lovely ones as well. And he kind of winks at you.
Nox just like, she has like one like ear twitch, like a cat when you're fucking with them and they don't like it. Like she just kind of just has that, but then she like just looks forward. Yeah, exactly. And then she just kind of looks forward and sighs, and then after a couple of moments she says, "I'm curious. You seem to live here alone, and yet your house is built like a family home."
No.
That's right. Give me that horrible backstory.
There's where he was kind of like smirking at first. The smile does kind of fade again as he kind of tromps through the snow, and he says, I built that home for the portions of the Ice Tooth clan that I tried to save. I wanted plenty of room for my daughter and for my son.
Jesus.
When Dhuur'in was staring unabashedly at this orc's ass, at the mention of his family, he looked away.
Shame.
He heard about this. He knows about this, so he's like, oh, fuck.
I was like, shit. I can't stare at his ass now. Oh my god.
Luckily, the hood's back up, so.
Yeah, it's okay. No one can see. She just kind of nods. She was, she doesn't look very surprised. You can probably anticipate that she was guessing that she was going to be hearing a story kind of like that. So she just kind of nods and says, "Is it not difficult to stay there with all of those memories?"
He kind of pauses. We all carry our weights, and it is up to us to find something to help us carry it. I think that giving myself a purpose, keeping your people out of the mountains, is my way of doing that.
And when we are finished putting your old friend to rest, what will be your purpose then? It will be, I'll say it'll be Ethan leaving.
He kind of like scratches his chin. You know, I do not know. Perhaps I will wander for a time. Perhaps not. Perhaps I will tear my home down and start anew. Perhaps I'll go south and seek my doom.
You know, you would make a good caravan guard. Something to consider.
He kind of stops and he thinks, caravan guard. And there's kind of like a moment of like, okay. And he kind of gives that some thought. You know, it is true what they say about your people. You are as deft with your tongues as you are with your legs.
6.
I'm sorry, I'm a Christian.
Stop. That's not sexual! Oh my god! For fuck's sake!
The facial journey that she just went through.
I was so in character, and then I looked down at Anna, and she's going... I look over at Sophie, and she's going... I look at Anna, and she's going...
Yeah, you filthy animal!
That's not what I meant, you bunch of fucking pervert... Oh my god.
If it makes you feel any better, Nox didn't take it that way.
I need to start playing with asexuals and no asexuals.
I am asexual.
Several of us in this chat are ace. I'm just saying.
Believe it or not, I am too.
It's more to blame. You can blame that on our depravity as
asexual.
She just
ace,
kind of.
but I'm still horny.
The guy didn't drink.
Honestly. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. You need a straw. Yeah. Okay. She just kind of nods and says, for many of us in this world, you need your wits more than you need your strength.
I can understand that. I will take that into consideration. Thank you, little cat.
Little cat. She just kind of nods solemnly and continues looking at the road as they march on.
Okay, so is there anything else that you guys want to do before we continue on? Does anybody want to talk about anything or anything like that?
Back to staring at that ass.
He's gone over his thing.
It's like the bowling balls vacuum sealed into a green pouch.
I'm gonna switch from my tablet to my phone because my tablet has like 10% left. So I'll be right back.
ahead. Do what you gotta do. We'll wait for you. How's everybody doing? Anybody need a break? Because we'll be taking one in about 30 minutes when we switch over to the next capture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent. And Anna's back. Okay, so there's another hour or so of walking through the snow, and the snowfall becomes heavier and heavier, and the skies become kind of like grayer as the air becomes thinner as you guys make your way up the mountain. It's kind of a harder trek to make, but with Kharne there to kind of like blaze the trail, it's a lot easier. In fact, with his flaming axe hand, he is able to like burn away a good deal of the snow in front of you, kind of like swinging it back and forth. It's kind of badass to watch, actually. But eventually, you do kind of see like a peak in the distance. It's obviously not like the tallest point in the entire mountain range, because if you were there and close enough to see it, you would be dead of freezing by now. But there is kind of like a substantial peak, and he kind of raises his axe towards it, and he says, "Stonefang has made his lair in that peak over there. We're going to need to cross the ledge, but then we will be there."
All right. I guess they're all just ready to go.
Okay, all right. So
No complaints.
once more, the ledge is about an hour and away, and every now and then you might stop to like eat something or whatever. There is a point where you kind of pass kind of like a flatter area that has a bunch of like squarish stone blocks kind of pointing out of the ground. And at this point, Kharne kind of stops and like regards them for a second before moving on. And eventually, you guys do make it to the base of that peak. And how do I describe this? Do you guys remember Do you guys remember in Skyrim the 1,000 steps or whatever?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of a situation similar to that, where there's kind of like this natural incline that kind of wraps its way around this peak all the way up. But it's very thin, and in certain parts of it, you kind of have to like brace yourself against the side of the wall as you make your way up. So I would like everybody to make a dexterity check.
Well, all right.
Does also need to do one too.
Just carry me, please.
Dexterity check.
17 for Dhuur'in.
Okay.
3 for Amaque.
3. 16 for Nox.
Okay.
6 for Oz.
Oh my god.
16
22 for Gesh.
Okay. Awesome. So Amaque, as you guys are kind of like pushing along, there's a moment where you go to take a step, and as you do, the rock kind of comes out from under you, and before you know it, you're sailing down the mountainside.
Oh god. Oh god.
But in a flash of movement, Kharne slams his axe against the ice, and his green hand snaps out, and it grabs you by the ponytail.
Oh my god. Ow.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And as with just like an incredible feat of just brutal strength, he hauls you back up onto the ice, and kind of like presses you up against it until you have like a better grip of it.
Oh my god.
And over the wind over the wind and the snow, he kind of shouts, "Everybody be careful!"
No shit!
Your poor scalp.
Right? And she's just kind of like holding on to her ponytail with like one hand while she's like holding on to everything else with the other. So like her quiver, her arrows, all that fun stuff with the other. And hopes that she doesn't lose anything.
Okay, so as you guys are able to make your way up the mountain, which takes a good hour and gives everybody 1 exhaustion point. So I would like everybody to take 1 exhaustion, and let me look up what that does really quick. Sorry, I'm a bad DM.
Hold on. I got this.
Okay.
Hmm?
So there it is.
Wait, where? How?
So now that you guys have one exhaustion point, right now you'll have disadvantage on ability checks. So just keep that in mind for later.
Oh, I think it's
Totally
okay.
Now you're frozen.
You're frozen.
You're frozen.
On ability checks. Yep.
Shit.
Am I still frozen?
Go
Wait,
all
what?
the way back.
Yeah.
You're still frozen, dude.
Am I still frozen?
Yeah.
Hang on. Oh boy, isn't that going how I thought it would? Let me get back into the call.
Disadvantage means you roll twice and you take the lower of the two.
Oh.
And you roll a d20.
You're back.
Am I
Yeah,
back?
this will be for an ability check. So if he says like, do a perception check or something like that, then that'll be when we use disadvantage.
Okay.
But do we add it anywhere in our sheets or?
Yeah. You don't.
I don't know
have
if there's a space.
to You don't have to write it down right now if you don't want to. Just keep in mind that you have one exhaustion right now. Did we lose somebody? Is somebody? On my screen. It looks like somebody's loading. Vinn.
I see everybody.
Vinn, you here?
Yeah, I see
I'm
Vinn.
here. You immediately leave and come back?
No, it's fine. Your video is just not loading for some reason. But so as you guys finally make your way, oh, there you go, Vinn, you're back. As you guys make your way up to the mountain, you finally do eventually make it to kind of this outcropping of rock, this flatter outcropping of rock. Kharne, for whatever reason, does not seem nearly as tired as you guys do, and but as you,
Of course.
as you guys make your way up to the outlining, there's kind of like a collective oh god as you kind of like stumble to the rock. And before you, in the distance, kind of enshrouded in a very cold mist, there's the mouth of a cave set into the rock, and very deep inside you hear a very loud echoey screech, and it's deep, it's throaty, and it's the kind of sound that just kind of like rips at your mind as you hear it. It's a horrible sound. And oh, the doggy is back, and his doggy is back. Hi doggy. Hi doggy. Look at your doggy. No, serious moment. Stop. Anyway, so the cave is a couple yards in the distance, and Kharne is looking at it, and he slowly turns to address everybody else, and kind of like seeing you sprawled out on the ground, he kind of smiles and he says, "Oh, come on, it was not that bad a walk."
Imagine they all just glare at him.
Fenkin
Nox just gives him a dark look.
Fenkin tosses Ozla to the ground, like falls to his knees, and he's like,
Dhuur'in's using his staff to kind of like lean on.
Amaque's kind of like taking out her ponytail to like check out if she's got like any fucking scalp damage from getting scalped by this freaking
Holy shit!
Yeah.
There's no like scalp damage, but it does still kind of fucking hurt. But you're alive.
It probably hurts.
You're alive and not a red paste at the base of the mountains. So
It's true. It's pretty good.
And eventually, as you guys kind of collect yourselves, Kharne looks to the mouth of the cave, and there's a chink in the armor. You see him hesitate and waver. He goes to take a step, but then he stops. And his great axe kind of falls to his side. And he looks at Nox and he says, "I can go no further. If I could not face him back then I cannot face him now. I would not ask you to do it in my stead, but I am afraid that I cannot go further on.
She kind of looks at him for a second. She kind of has a very, a sort of searching look on her face as she looks at him, as if kind of just, reading his expression. And then she'll look back to the rest of them in their somewhat haggard, tired states that they're in. But after a couple of moments of regarding her party, she looks back to the orc and she nods and says, "We will give him a noble death." What is that?
I thought it said dick dogs for a second, and I was like, God damn it, Ev.
It can. It could.
It could. It could. I mean, you could read Connor if you wanted to, but
It's true. Yeah, you could.
So Nox, as you say this, Kharne slowly looks down at you, and there's kind of like a sad smile on his face as he nods, and he says, "I know I do myself a dishonor, sending you in my stead to do my dirty work, but know now that I appreciate it more than anything else. And all I ask is that he dies a good death. Is that he dies a quick death. Is that something you can do for me?"
She kind of nods and says, "It will be as quick and painless as we can manage."
Okay. And with that, the party slowly makes its way to the mouth of the cave. And from there, we are going to take a short break so we can get some food and something to drink, and we will be back in about 10 minutes.
Yay!
Okay.